Hi, this is Bob Dickinson. I'm a maintainer of MCP Inspector, and I'm going to give you a quick demo of Step-Up Auth in MCP Inspector v2. Inspector v2 is not out yet. It'll be available in an alpha very soon, and you can still go in and build it off the v2 main branch if you want to play with this latest code. But fairly soon, this will be in the released MCP Inspector. So first of all, let's talk about authorization a little bit and scope challenge handling. So if you're not really familiar, scopes are essentially the permissions that are attached to your access token when you are authorized via OAuth. So when you go to OAuth and you connect to an OAuth server, you might have seen a consent dial that looks something like this, where it essentially says, hey, these are the things this app is going to be able to do on your behalf, and maybe these are things it can't do on your behalf. And sometimes you might have the ability to turn individual things on and off. You might be in a position where the authorization server allows you to decide which scopes or permissions you're going to give to the application. So when we connect to an MCP server, we indicate what scopes that we want. That'll usually be part of the MCP server configuration to say that you should request this scope or certain scopes to access certain tools. But MCP servers are allowed to require whatever scopes they want for any operations. And if they don't think you have sufficient scopes, they can essentially challenge the client and say, hey, I don't think you have enough scopes. You need a different scope. So we have this 403 forbidden mechanism where the MCP server can say you have insufficient scopes, and it'll tell you what scopes that you need. And then it's the client's job to go back and reauthorize with the authorization server to get the scopes that it needs, assuming the user approves that permission. So this just basically explains that flow. This has been in MCP proper for a while. There was an SEP that has been converted into the draft spec for the July 28th new release that formalizes this and gives it a lot more sort of shape to what you should do in all these different edge cases. But essentially now this is something that we're going to expect clients to be able to do, which is to do the step-up auth. And it's called step-up because you're essentially asking for more scopes than you originally asked for when you authenticated. And I'll show you a little bit just so you're familiar. So when you set up when you configure an MCP server, you have lots of things you configure, but when you set up OAuth, you'll typically ask for the set of scopes that you want. Not all MCP servers use scopes at all, but for the ones that do use scopes, you'll typically ask for the scopes that you want in the OAuth configuration. And that's the case in both of these. We're going to ask for tools.read. The servers that we're using for both the demos I'm going to show you are what we call the composable test server. It's a server that's built into MCP Inspector, and it's basically a flexible test server that allows you to compose a test server that can have any set of tools or resources or capabilities or versions or sort of anything, and it also has the ability to configure how it does authorization. So I'll give you an example. This one that we're going to demo first is a composable test server that we've set up. That's this OAuth step-up demo, and it has a couple of tools. It has an echo tool and a get temp tool, and the get temp tool has required scopes. It requires this weather.read. And then we see that we are going to be, this combined mode basically means we're going to be our own authorization server. You'll see what that looks like. And these are the scopes that we support as our own authorization server. So we support any of these three scopes. This particular scope is required to run this particular tool. And then in a second, I'm going to show you the enterprise managed authorization version of that, which is where you use your IDP for authentication. And in that case, we have a very similar, we have a tools read scope, and we have an environment read that's required to run this get env tool. And in this case, we are in protected resource mode, which means we're pointing to xa.dev as our authorization server. So xa.dev is actually going to authorize us and give us back the scopes that we asked for in the EMA case. So I'll try to show you what both of those look like. But first of all, we're just going to do a quick connection to this demo server. This is our own authorization server, and it's just telling you what the client is, and it's telling you what scopes it's asking for, and it's just asking for tools.read, so we're going to authorize it, and now we're connected. And now if I go to the connection info, I can go to the OAuth details, and I can see the scopes I have are tools.read. So that worked as we expected it to work. If I go into tools, I can call a regular tool, and it works fine. If I call this get temp tool, let's see what it's going to be like in Seattle. It's going to tell me, hey, you don't have enough scopes to get to run this tool. You need this weather.read scope. And at this point, the user is being prompted. So you can cancel and not give it that scope if you don't want to, if you don't trust it, if you don't think it should have that permission. But assuming you do, you can hit authorize. And in the case of a standard OAuth, it's going to take us right back through another auth flow to get us the scopes that we need. So we're going through another auth flow, and this time you can see we're getting both of those scopes. And when we authorize it, You notice it took us right back to where we were before in the application. The form fields are already filled in. It's ready to go. And it's telling us, hey, the auth succeeded. The step up succeeded. You can retry the action and you just have to hit the button and it works. So that's how Step-Up Auth works in a standard OAuth. Let's go and look when you're doing EMA. So with EMA, you're already connected to your IDP. So you're already authenticated. And the authorization server is able to generally deal with Step-Up Auth without having to show you in a user interface. So let's just see how that works. Let's connect. So we're already connected. We didn't have to go through any auth phase because we're connected to our IDP, which is xa.dev. By going to my connection info, I can see, hey, I have tools.read, and in this case, it's actually in my access token, so I can see the same scopes that are in the access token. And then let's go look at what these tools look like. And similarly, I have an echo tool that I can run there, and I have a get environment tool. If I run this, it's going to say, hey, similarly, now we're going to have to go to your use your enterprise identity provider to get these additional permissions. You may be asked to sign in if your session's expired, which is not, and we need env.read. Now, we wouldn't have to show you this dialog. In a normal client, you might not show this dialog because you don't need to get permission from the user necessarily. The authorization server is going to be able to get the scopes all silently without showing any user interface. But in the case of Inspector, like the goal of this is people trying to debug their servers and figure out how they work. So we're trying to be explicit about what's happening. So we're telling you, hey, even though it's EMA and even though it's not going to show you any interface, we're telling you we're going to go ask for this env read permission unless you tell us not to. So we hit authorize, it authorizes it, and it works. So it's super straightforward. Again, it just kind of works very, very cleanly when it works. It's pretty simple to configure, pretty simple to set up. Anyway, hopefully that's interesting to people that are trying to implement Step-Up Auth in their servers. They'll be able to use MCP Inspector to drive those flows fairly soon. Thanks.